So I thought this field was going to be a complete failure, but lo and behold, looks like we've got a few bright spots in this field. And I don't think you guys would be surprised at all. So I know it's probably difficult for you to pick up on camera some of the successful spots in this field. But basically, this is the field that I said had all that spoil material from the river. And it's heavy clay with no organic matter. Fertility is not that bad, just no organic matter, so we've struggled to grow much on this field. So I planted this field up about 2.5 months ago with a mixture of the legumes, a few summer annuals, and then some perennial grasses. And after about six weeks or so, I was ready to call it basically a complete failure. But we've kind of gotten into a drought, and surprisingly, there's a few things that have started to actually grow reasonably well. So one of them is the sorghum Sudan grass, and the other one is the Bahia grass I planted. So the sorghum Sudan isn't great. You know, a lot of it looks like this. You know, it's 12 or 14 inches tall. It's tiny. Most of it's not real dark green, but there are some giant dark green patches. Like if you look over here, here's a good example of one. I'm gonna kind of zoom in so you can see it from here. There's that patch over there. I'm gonna walk over there real quick and show it to you. So I'm gonna do a little panning so you can get some perspective here. This is a couple of sorghum Sudan grasses in a random spot. They're growing. They're 12, 15 inches tall maybe, growing in a little bit of Bahia. Bahia doesn't look terrible. And then you come to this spot and you've got this kind of growth. Now, it didn't come up very thick, but I think that's because there's still a lot of hay on the ground. But this is the fertility that bale grazing leaves. So surprisingly, or not surprisingly, almost every patch where we had a bale is kind of like this, where it's kind of sparsely sprouted, but the plants that grew are much darker green and have probably 10 times the mass on them as the places that didn't. And it just kind of fades out where it's dark green, and then as you get towards the edge of it, it gets a little bit lighter green and the plants get smaller. But this is one of the main benefits of bale grazing that I've seen, is that you really concentrate a lot of nutrients in a spot like this. Now, I did look at the spots where I unrolled hay, and it's bigger areas, but it's a little bit more spread out. And so it's more spread out, and it's not quite as grown up. It's probably half the growth of this. So I'm gonna go right over here and show you one of those spots. So here's a spot where we unrolled hay, and it's probably a half or slightly less than a half as grown up as the spots where we bale grazed. But I don't know if you can kind of see, but it starts right here and goes out kind of along that line right there. So you see that kind of higher spot where it's pretty clear that there's some added fertility there. It's not exceptional, but it's a significant improvement. So this kind of shows you the value of putting your animals, you know, when you're feeding hay, putting them on some of your worst areas that really need some fertility added, because it 100% absolutely adds a significant amount of fertility to your ground from both the animals and from the leftover hay itself. And another comparison, you see this big dark spot over here. This is another one of those spots where we bale grazed, and again, kind of sparse sprouting, but the grass is much larger and greener. It's just interesting how that kind of worked out for us. And then if I pan across the field, you see another one right over there where it's big and tall and dark green. So I don't know, it's kind of one of those things where I like the bigger area of fertility that the unrolling hay leaves, but it clearly doesn't leave the maximum that the plants could uptake, but it does cover a lot more area. I do think you get better germination. But what I've seen in years past, and I guess we'll see as time goes, is that these rings where we bale graze, that dark green grass persists for like at least 2 seasons in that exact spot. So you get a long duration. I haven't unrolled hay except for this past winter, so I'd be curious to see if it kind of persists through a whole growing season and then even into the next one with those dark green circles of grass. So it's always interesting to kind of track your results on some of these different things and just see what works and see what doesn't. Because I think you'll always be surprised when you're trying new things at the stuff that you notice. But overall, what surprised me, I think the most, is that the legumes were 100% fail in this field. I've looked around quite a bit. I guess I can't say 100, but like a 95% failure. You know, you got one of the cowpeas right here. I got a cowpea right there. And I could probably walk another 100 yards in this field and not find another one. There's so few that have survived, and I don't really know exactly why that is, because they all sprouted. I saw them. I didn't really see a whole lot of deer sign in this field. It's big, it's like 10 acres. So I really don't think the deer ate it all. But for some reason, in this field with no organic matter and no fertilizer other than what the cows left in the winter, we really didn't get any growth from the legumes. So a little surprising. I guess I won't plant them again in a field that's like this. You know, the sorghum Sudan grass, not great, but I've got a decent stand of it where I think it's gonna have to grow a lot longer to graze it than that other little section that I already grazed, because that area was more of our natural soil, not the spoil fill material. And it was ready to graze in like 8 weeks. And I think in a month's time of recovery, it's gonna be ready to graze again. Whereas this, I'm thinking I might give this another month or two to try to grow. Maybe we'll get some rain, it'll shoot up, and then not graze it again till the fall. And that'll also help the bahia I planted in here get kind of established without getting overgrazed. But like I said, for a while there, I was thinking this field might be a complete fail. But I think there's enough here that we're gonna get a couple of grazings this summer out of it. So anyway, catch you guys later.